Well, let's switch gears a little bit. So you went through this moment. I want to take a step back.
Okay.
I want to talk about where you came from. So, award-winning CEO. We all know the stories. We'll talk about that. But what's your background? Where did you come from? What's your childhood?
Well, my childhood is a rocky journey, but it's definitely one that I appreciate because it's shaped me into what I am today. But basically, being actually born in Oakland, California, and raised in Richmond and Vallejo, California. A lot of my formative years was in Richmond, California, and those that may know, Richmond, especially at that time, wasn't the best city in terms of just a lot of the dangers of the streets and things that take place there. But more importantly, the things that my mom was going through at the time after splitting up with my dad and getting remarried. There was just a lot of struggle, a lot of challenge. You saw a lot of domestic violence, things like that. A lot of chemical dependencies that were developed by my mom and people that was around her. She was trying to just cope with stress and the things she was dealing with. But all of that, causes you to, just really develop certain mental blockages, mental ceilings, things that cause you to look at things a certain way. It forms habits, it forms emotional patterns, it forms thought patterns. And all of those were things that I took to school with me. But eventually, after seeing a lot, and I never forget going and taking a drive with my mom to a home for battered women and looking at the kids in there and the other women that were in there, and just thinking about what would I become. School was always difficult. Sometimes you become the class clown because things are so serious at home, not so much because you just want to clown around, but you kind of need a way to get away from the seriousness of things that you shouldn't have to experience as a kid. So that all being said, there's so much of my journey that I could talk about, but I'll just say, childhood and just kind of staying there, that was kind of rocky, and going back and forth between parents, going to 5-6 elementary schools, seeing a lot that you shouldn't see, and then wondering, how would it change, and would you even live to, experience something different, or would you, be caught up in some of the things that you saw other kids getting caught up in. So that was a little bit about the childhood and just kind of how things were at the time.
Wow. So class clown, but completely not aware of, probably people didn't know, right, what you were going with. So people want to get to know you. So they hear the story. I hear the story of struggle, going to your mom with battered women. What was that like, and how do you think that shaped you?
Well, I think it was it was a pretty traumatic experience. Anybody that's experienced domestic violence, especially being a young man, when you see domestic violence with someone that you love, someone that's close to you, like a mom, it's a very, very helpless feeling. Going to an environment such as the home for battered women, and you begin to see other women that's in that situation and other kids that are kind of lost. And so you connect in that sense of loss, and then sometimes the struggle of the back and forth, because anyone that knows about people that's been abused, they have a tendency to start seeing abuse as love. So just watching a person go back to that abuser and go back and forth, I think when I think about how those things shaped me, I do think they made me tougher, because when you experience some pain and emotional hurt, and you see what it's like to have something very traumatic, and then you realize you're still breathing, it kind of toughens you up. But also I think it does create some, you can get some resentment, you can get some bitterness and things like that. That's why you have to be really careful of how to take those situations and turn them into fuel. I think, when I think about, being an entrepreneur, a CEO, a professional, a scholar, whatever you're going to do, there's going to be things that come up that are very tough. There's going to be letdowns, failures, disappointments. But when you come through certain things and your heart, gets ripped out and put back in a few times, when things come up, it just doesn't break you, it doesn't kill you. It might bother you, it might frustrate you, but can't kill you because you've seen worse, and so I think that's the good I take away from some of those things. And of course, there's a lot of things that it probably helped to shape, but those are some things that I appreciate about those experiences.
That's really good. I hear people. So when I hear your story, I think about people. Do you think some of those experiences caused you to really love people in general and want to see people be better?
Well, I think you're probably right. I think probably more than I realized at the time, but I don't think at the time I was thinking about people. I think I was thinking more about the situation. But I think the common bond between people is we all want to be happy. We all want to be treated respectfully. We all want to be valued. We all want to feel we matter. And so I think when you come through traumatic things and you see pain at a very deep level, I think what it does do is it increases your senses to understand how people feel and to know what hurt feels like and appreciate when hurt comes, how traumatic it is. So then you don't want others to feel that way. So I think it does give you a sensitivity towards people if you allow it, because you say, now that I know what hurt is and I know what pain is and I've seen a lot of it, I don't want anyone else to feel that, so you I guess you do develop a certain skill set of how can I, well, that's, I think for me, it definitely helped to sharpen my sensitivity towards people and knowing people that may be hurting or could potentially be hurt and wanting to do things to help people if I could. So I'm glad that I went that route versus other routes that some have went when they've experienced traumatic things.